Hello and welcome to the cottage I'm staying at instead of the Sportsnet Digital Studios. My name's Amit, Mann, here to catch you up on everything to do with Canada basketball at Paris 2024. I am at the cottage. I mistakenly booked a vacation over the Olympics, so that's a lesson for me and something I should have done a lot better at. But as we move forward here, unfortunately, Canada is no longer in the men's Olympic tournament. They fall to the home nation France 82 to 73. The expectation was a medal, or at the very least, a semifinal, but definitely a medal. And the team just did not get it done today. It kind of reminded me of that loss in the qualifiers last year against Brazil, where simply they were outsized in a lot of ways. But who did it was the interesting part. Let's look at the game story. So, as I said, 82-73. Little help for Shea. Shea and RJ are the only players to hit double figures in this one. We'll get to more of that in a moment. Also, we got to talk about the free throw advantage that France had. It was a significant factor in how this game played out, but that's kind of how it went, and we'll get into the details of that. And just really that the game, like it's over. Canada's run is over. It's really sad. I felt really good coming into this game that they might be able to pull this off despite being on the road technically, and also just the performance of the team so far in the tournament in contrast to what we've seen from France. But here we are, and Shea led the way, of course, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. So what happened in this game? Well, it was a lot of bullying. France bullied Canada, and the people that did it aren't the ones that you would think would be the ones that are doing it. Rudy Gobert only played 4 minutes in this game. Wemby had 7 points on 2 of 10 shooting, 12 rebounds, and 4 stocks. A couple of really big defensive plays, but it wasn't those guys doing the bruising. And if you saw the preview I did, I alluded to France having a lot of issues, just like finding their rotations and the guys that they're going to be relying upon to start and to, help them win games. And today it was Isaiah Cordinier, Gershon Yabusele, and Matthias Lasorte. So those three combined for 55 points. All three of them didn't start in their last game against Germany. Holy smokes. Like Fournier, he had 8 quick points in the first quarter. Gershon Yabusele, 6 of 8 or 6 of 9, 8 of 9 from the free throw line. And he also made some threes. And Matthias Lasorte drew 11 fouls, 11 fouls on Canadian players. So Canada was in the bonus pretty much the whole game. And those three are the ones that got them through this. But I mean, as soon as the game started, you could tell that France, in front of their home fans, a lot more energy, a lot more pace, a lot more physicality. And Canada, I mean, obviously they did get the game close. They got it down to 5, but that first quarter was a really big problem for them. They only scored 5 points in the final like 7.5 minutes, and they get outscored 23 to 10 in that corner. And aside from that, they actually did outscore France if you take out that first quarter. But it's just like yeah, France, they were the much better team. They had a better game plan. Jordy definitely got outcoached in this one. And France, they wanted to use the physicality. Some of the bigger players that they have, Yabusele, Lasorte, and they just drew a lot of switches, right? And Canada was willing to do that because that's their game plan. They've had success with it so far in this tournament. And also going back to the qualifiers, they trust their defenders and their guards. We're looking at Shea, Andrew, Nikhil, go down the list. They were not able to handle those switches against some of those bigger players. And to France's credit, again, they worked to make those switches happen. They would pass the ball around the horn, and those dudes, Lasorte and Yabusele, they made sure they got that post touch. And from there, they were going to work. A lot of fouls were called, a lot of fouls. Canada did try going double big at a few points. We saw Kelly Olynyk and Kem Birch out there for a little bit. We saw Trey Lyles. He got a lot more run. Kelly didn't play very much today, actually. And Dwight Powell, one of the people that in their starting lineup that they just need to be good game in, game out, especially with those small details, knowing the game plan and executing it. He was really bad today. He was really, really bad. And is that coaching? Is that poor game planning? Is that, him? I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but in so many cases, it was so annoying that it would be like a dribble handoff with a guard or Yabusele and Matthias Lasorte, and they would just turn the corner, they would flip, they would go the other way, and now Dwight Powell is trying to catch up while those guys are driving towards the basket, and then it's dunks, it's kickouts. Go down the list, man. It was a lot of bad defensive plays from Dwight. But as I said, I mean, as soon as Canada wasn't able to handle those dudes on the block, they didn't really. This is where I kind of go to Jordy, is I didn't really like how he responded to that. And in any kind of game, right? You have a scheme, and especially with Canada, where they've been probably one of the best defensive teams in this tournament, and you don't want to overreact, right? And like even though they were down, a lot after the first quarter, like you still have 3 quarters to go. You want to trust your game plan because it's been good for you. But I don't think he pulled the plug soon enough, because then eventually they did start, doubling Yabusele in the post, and that led to results. And but I think they reacted way too slow. And game planning wise, it could have been a little bit stronger. I thought they could have used a bit more zone at points, just like throw off the rhythm of France, because they were just clicking. Everything had a lot of tempo. They were doing really well getting into their actions. They were playing with a lot of pace, as I mentioned earlier. And I don't think Canada responded well to it. Yeah, they got great one-on-one defenders, and those dudes are fighting. Like Lou Dort had a couple of really impressive plays down the stretch, a couple of strips, and he was doing his thing. But foul trouble between some of their key players and the game plan, right? And just not executing it well. It felt like the France had like 35 offensive rebounds, even though Canada actually out rebounded them offensively 15-10. But it was just a lot of the same things happening over and over and over. And Evan Fournier, he had a couple of really big shots down the stretch. One was like a kick out from Wemby. He was around the elbow and he kicked it out to Evan Fournier. He hit it was further than an NBA three. It was deep, and he hit that. And then like in the last minute, the game was essentially over, but the nail in the coffin was hit by Fournier. They're wasting clock, just trying to drain it. And then he just throws up a prayer from the left wing, and it goes in, of course. Of course, it goes in. And from that point, I mean, yeah, it wasn't a good game. They had a lot of players on the France side that played well, and Canada had very few that played well in several different categories. So that was a tough one. Um, but we should talk about the free throw disparity, right? That's something that we do have to talk about, because it was substantial, right? It was 42-25. France scored 15 more points from the line than Canada coming into it. Canada did get to the line a lot more than France. But this, what was it, right? Was it game planning? Was it, coming into it, probably felt like the French side would get more of the whistles, being the home team. And I think that's common in NBA playoffs. Doesn't matter. Like, you're the home nation, home team, you're probably going to get a better whistle. And so that was a factor, right? But the game plan that France had, which put Canada into a bind, which put them in positions where they had Andrew Nembhard being posted up by Lasort or Yabusele or whoever it was, that's on them, right? They didn't really change things enough. I felt like they conceded those switches far too often. They should have fought more and then relied upon, scramble defense, which they're excellent at. But they didn't do that, right? They were a bit stubborn in their game plan. And I believe Jordy was quoted at some point during halftime, or he was talking to an official, and he was saying that, it can't be like this. I'm waiting to see if there's any quotes that come from Jordy. I'm doing this like shortly after the game, so haven't heard anything yet. Here's one quote. We didn't match their energy and physicality. Offensively, I thought it was our most selfish game. We didn't share the ball. Pointed out 14 assists or 14 turnovers. We'll get to the offense in a moment. No more quotes exactly here from on the defensive side of things, or the foul disparity. But yeah, it was a factor, but also, France earned it by the way that they played. And if we're going to get into some of the other details here offensively for Canada, I mean, Jordy kind of teed it up for us. Two players that needed to be a lot better. Jamal Murray, he was terrible. He was really, really bad. And Dylan Brooks, pretty bad too. He was pretty damn bad. Not gonna lie, he was really, really bad. And I believe outside of RJ and Shea, the team shot 10 of 60, or 10 of 30 rather. Right? That's not a good percentage. That's pretty bad. But again, game plan and execution of it. I felt like France coming into this game, they had very little offensive toughness. Like they were really, really low on that side of things. It was easy to get them out of their sets, to get them frustrated, and also they didn't always seem like they had a complete cohesive plan and execution of what their coach was trying to lay out for them. And today it seemed like Canada was that team. The ball was sticking a lot. It felt like one of the key things from this team, and what I've loved about it so much is that they've relied on each other, they've trusted each other to make plays, and I didn't see that today. Right, there was very little player movement. Shea, I mean, he was obviously great, but like I think at points he was probably not trusting his teammates either, and rightly so, probably to some degree because they weren't making shots, they weren't making good decisions. Um, but the flow and the off ball movement, it wasn't there. And was it a lack of trust? Again, game planning. It could be a combination of a few different things, but the ball was not moving the way it has in previous games. And that costed Canada substantially. I don't think they really threw anything at Canada that was like abnormal or something they haven't seen before. It was a lot of nail help for when Shea had the ball, and it was a lot of bodies, converging on him. And I don't think he made the right play often enough, right? But I mean, if your team isn't making shots and you're the only one doing it, that's also a factor in this too. Jamal Murray, he missed a lot of really, really good looks, like a lot. He was pretty bad today. No other way to say it. He was pretty bad today. Looking at his numbers, 3 of 13. He started the game and he had a really nice like step back three over Wemby, which is a very tough shot. But after that, yeah, like he missed a lot of really good looks. He went 2 of 9 from two, 1 of 4 from three. A few of those 3-point looks, especially late in the game, really could have helped. And they didn't get any production from him and Dylan Brooks. His shot discipline today was not great. Step back threes, and some of these is a product of the offense, right? You're not having a lot of off ball movement, ball movement. Guys aren't in sync with each other, and so eventually the ball's going to end up in someone's hands, and they got to take a shot. Late in the game, he was posting up someone on France, and Wemby just like came over as a surprise, and he blocked the bejesus out of him. That's yeah, pretty self-explanatory of how that kind of sequence went for Dylan and for Canada. Andrew Nembhard, he played 14 minutes, well, 15, I guess. And you could have argued that maybe he should have got more time compared to Jamal Murray's 23 minutes. I think it's fair to say it's a reason to question it. After Jamal made his first shot, the step back three I alluded to, I felt like he was going to have a good game. Or we're finally going to see, the Jamal Murray, at least a closer version to what we were expecting. That did not work. RJ Barrett got off to a bit of a slow start, but I mean, he finishes with 16 points, 6 of 11. He was really, especially in that second half. I don't know how many points he had in the first half. I don't have that in front of me, but second half when Canada was rallying and they got it down to 5 a few times. A lot of it was him, curling to the basket, getting in the paint, and some nice kick out passes and getting to the free throw line. He shot 2 of 3 from there. He hit 2 of 5 from three, and 4 of 6 from 2-point range. So he was pretty good. Obviously, Shea was good, but I think he could have been a little bit better with involving his teammates, and his teammates could have been a lot better at off-ball moving and finding the gaps, as they have done for many games in this tournament. The reason why it reminded me of the loss to Brazil last year is because a lot of this same stuff was happening. Is I felt like Canada, like their feet were in the mud, and they just didn't have the oomph, right? The attention, the offensive chemistry that we've shown. It seemed like they didn't really have that strong, cohesive, like mind that they had at various points in this tournament. It's so sad that it's really sad. Trey Lyles, he had 2 points. He wasn't very impactful, I guess. But Ken Birch, shout out to him. I mean, if you guys don't know his story, like after his season with the Raptors, he did not have an NBA contract, and it was Pau Gasol's Spanish team that brought him on, that allowed him to play, to rehab, and to get himself in better shape. And here he is. And today he was pretty good. I mean, he had a couple of chip-ins, he had a few offensive rebounds, he had some blocks, some key blocks that kept the game close. So shout out to him. Dwight Powell, I mentioned already, 4 points. Nine rebounds defensively. He wasn't good. He just wasn't wasn't good at all. Lou Dort got into some foul trouble, so he only played 20 minutes and 34 seconds, but he was actually, I think he led the team in plus minus. Trey Lyles was an even zero, and as was Lou, but he was definitely he made a difference when he was on the court, especially at the point of attack. I thought he would have potential to really cause some problems for French guards, and he did, right? He had a couple of really awesome steals. But Canada, yeah, if you want to, bring this down to just like a cohesive key reasons why Canada lost. It was a lack of offensive toughness. It was the free throw disparity, which was, again, because of the French game plan and how they went about it and their, how consistently they attacked that side of things. Like Wemby only had 7 points, right? They got beat by a bunch of dudes who aren't even NBA players. Evan Fournier had a few really big buckets, as I mentioned earlier, but that's it. Really tough, man. Really tough. Like, I wonder how impactful that crowd was. Obviously, the whistle, as I said, it was impacted by the crowd. But I think we probably felt that way anyways, that it was going to be like that coming into it. But I mean, Gershon Yabusele, 22 points. I say Cordinier, 20. Evan Fournier, 15. Lessort, 13 in 19 minutes. It was a clinic from those guys. And Canada, like, despite all how bad that they were, they lose by 9 points. And RJ Barrett, uh, Jamal Murray, 3 of 13, and Dylan Brooks, yeah, 1 of 9. He's been a pretty consistent source for offense throughout the tournament. He was getting anointed his FIBA version of himself that we've seen, like a FIBA Fournier, FIBA Bogdanovich, and so forth. He was getting like that kind of praise for how he played and how consistent he was scoring. Didn't see that today. Foul trouble again got him as well. Those two, Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks, they neither of them played over 22 minutes, and Canada has always been better when those two guys are on the court, but they've been consistently in foul trouble. And today was another case where that happened. So there you go. Um, Unfortunate loss, man. Really, really unfortunate loss. But Canada basketball, they leave the Olympics with no medals. The women's 3x3 team, they lost to the U.S. in the bronze medal game, so they finished fourth. I already talked about the women's national team. They did not make it to the quarterfinals, and then the men's team here, they do not make it to the semis, and their tournament is over. So tough one for Canada basketball. Tough one for the men's team today. And that's going to do it. That's about it. So thank you for checking out these videos throughout the Olympics. It was fun watching Canada basketball throughout, even though some of the results didn't go our way. But enjoy the rest of the games. Have fun. The Raptor season is around the corner.